The morning light of the South China Sea pierces through the thin mist, casting its glow on the silver-gray bow of the 170 Lanzhou warship. Senior Sergeant Chen Wenkei's fingers dance swiftly across the control panel as the simulated target 260 kilometers away is firmly locked onto by the HHQ-9B missile. Data is continuously transmitted via an encrypted link from the Yangshu Reef radar station. This first ship of the Chinese Aegis class, which has been in service for exactly 20 years, retains its phased array radar housing and hull contours, but its nervous system is now integrated into the Chinese Navy's cutting-edge combat network. At that moment in Washington, D.C., the last two members of the Shipbuilding Office were quietly emptying their drawers in the National Security Council office at the White House. The Naval Revival Command, established by Trump 4 months ago with great fanfare, had survived only 90 days before being dissolved under pressure from interest groups. The trajectory of the great powers' maritime power struggle had formed a cruel mirror image at this moment. The reverse growth miracle of the Lanzhou warship began at the floating dry dock of the Jiangnan shipyard. When it was wrapped in scaffolding, outsiders speculated that it would undergo a major overhaul, installing the 052D's phased array radar and removing the iconic circular vertical launch units. However, the Chinese Navy chose a more refined path, activating the maximum combat potential with minimal surgical intervention. The 730 close-in weapons system on the hangar roof was replaced with a 24-cell HQ-10 missile launcher, forming a tiered intercept network with the retained 730 gun at the bow, specifically targeting supersonic anti-ship missiles. The YJ-62 anti-ship missile was upgraded to the YJ-12, capable of 4 Mach throughout its flight, significantly enhancing its penetration capabilities. These modifications cost less than 20% of the price of a new ship, but resulted in an 80% increase in combat effectiveness and a 10-year extension of the ship's service life. The true revolution lies in the invisible nerve center. The collaborative combat system acts as the fleet's shared sensory system, enabling the Lanzhou to receive real-time target data from early warning aircraft, drones, and even the Type 055 destroyer, expanding the air defense radius from the traditional 120 kilometers to 260 kilometers. The communication equipment upgrade led by Senior Petty Officer Chen Wenkei is the key interface of this system. What he refers to as the ace in the hole is actually the neural synapse of battlefield information fusion. 38% of the main battleships in the Southern Theater have completed similar upgrades. They are interwoven with the radar stations on the 7 artificial islands in the South China Sea to form the world's densest maritime kill chain, reducing tactical response time to 1/3 of what it was in 2016. This system-enabled logic allows older ships to no longer rely on hardware upgrades, but instead gain new life through data sharing. While China achieves 3 generations of technological iteration in one ship through modular upgrades, the defense industry ecosystem across the Pacific is a vicious cycle. In March 2025, Trump passionately announced the establishment of the White House Shipbuilding Office in Congress, vowing to break the shackles of bureaucracy. In April, he signed an executive order promising to revive the shipbuilding industry. However, the 7-member core team disintegrated within 3 months. This was not a technical failure but a systemic collapse. Unions opposed automation reforms under the guise of protecting jobs, while defense contractors like Lockheed Martin lobbied Congress to freeze new shipbuilding plans to maintain profits from Burke-class orders. The Jones Act, a protectionist law dating back to 1920, driven U.S. merchant ship construction costs to 3 to 4 times those of Japan and South Korea. When French shipping company CMA-CGM withdrew its $20 billion investment, the last lifeline for the U.S. shipbuilding industry sank. The collapse of the industrial foundation was staggering. The Burke II-class destroyer remained stalled after 5 years of construction due to technical defect, and only 10% of the Constellation-class frigate was completed after 2 years. At the Newport News shipbuilding yard, the number of welders has decreased by 87% compared to 1,980, and the supply chain has broken down to the point where even qualified rivets are hard to find. In contrast, China's shipyard utilization rate reaches 92%, with the first 055 destroyer completed in 1,870 days, and 20 052D destroyers currently under simultaneous construction. Deep-seated gaps are accelerating in the process of technological iteration. The electromagnetic catapult failure rate of the Fujian-class aircraft carrier is only 0.7%. While that of the U.S. Ford class is as high as 8.3%. The 346C radar of the Type 055 destroyer uses gallium nitride technology, achieving 4 functions: search, tracking, fire control, and electronic warfare, with a single array, outperforming the capabilities of the Arleigh III, which requires 3 systems to achieve the same functionality. When industrial efficiency and innovation investment create a generational gap, the tonnage myth comes to an end. The practical value of the Lanzhou warship is rapidly being realized in the South China Sea. The 3-layer kill chain it forms with the Yangshu Reef radar station and the Type 076 drone carrier is disrupting traditional naval warfare rules. Older ships handle frontline surveillance. Electromagnetic catapult-launched Attack 11 drone swarms expand the strike radius, and Dongfeng 260 anti-ship missiles cover a 4,000-kilometer exclusion zone. The U.S. military, however, is deeply entrenched in its existing approach. To avoid the threat of the Dongfeng missiles, it has spent $2.8 billion building the America-class amphibious assault ship, attempting to compensate for the carrier's survivability shortcomings by deploying F-35B fighters in a dispersed manner. This piecemeal approach exposes its strategic imbalance. Among the 74 Arleigh-class destroyers, 16 still use 1990s-era systems, and the delivery of the first Arleigh-class destroyer has been delayed until 2026. The most critical gap lies in command and control. While Arleigh-class captains still manually input target coordinates, the fire control system on the Lanzhou destroyer automatically allocates strike targets through AI-assisted decision-making. The operational readiness rate of Aegis destroyers in the Southern Theater Command has reached 92%, while the U.S. 7th Fleet's operational readiness rate has dropped below 50%, forcing it to redeploy ships from the Atlantic Fleet to fill the gap. The chasm between system-based warfare and piecemeal build-up has crystallized into a decisive factor in victory or defeat. Pentagon simulations indicate that by 2030, China's total firepower projection will surpass that of the United States, with 70% of this increase coming from upgraded older ships rather than new vessels. This reveals a profound shift in the nature of maritime power. China's technological generation gap strategy uses system-level capabilities to offset its tonnage disadvantage. The number of Type 052D destroyers is about to surpass the combined total of US, Japanese, and South Korean destroyers. While each older vessel undergoes 3 technological iterations, continuously evolving throughout its life cycle, the US faces a stock trap. In a vicious cycle, shipbuilding costs are 9 times higher than China's, with an average fleet age of 23 years. Maintenance budgets devour innovation investments, creating a deadlock where, the older they get, the more expensive they become, and the more expensive they become, the harder it is to update them. As the foundation of civilian shipbuilding collapses, commercial ship orders plummet to zero, and military ship component procurement cycles extend by 300%. The depletion of the industrial lifeblood is irreversible. The key to the restructuring of maritime power is shifting from steel tonnage to the density of neural synapses. Waves crash against the gates of the Jiangnan shipyard as 2 newly launched Type 055B destroyers slowly glide into the Huangpu River. Their gallium nitride radars can scan a 600-kilometer airspace, yet they share the same combat cloud network with the Lanzhou warship moored alongside. The coexistence of cutting-edge warships and upgraded veterans illustrates the deep wisdom of the Chinese Navy. Heroes are not judged by their age, but by the system that determines victory or defeat. At the Newport News shipbuilding yard, the fault alarm for the electromagnetic catapult of the Ford-class aircraft carrier sounded for the 37th time. Under the rusting gantry cranes, workers continued to wait for the special rivets that had been delayed for 214 days. When the industrial foundation rots, even the most passionate political declarations will ultimately be reduced to dust in the data chain's fiery web. The Lanzhou trajectory reveals the essence of maritime power transition, the silent of system evolution over hardware accumulation.